Hello everyone, this is Rama again, and this is another recipe. This is going to be Channa Masala, which is chickpeas. And so those are chickpeas or garbanzo beans. That's what we're going to make today. So let's get our pan on. And this starts very similar to how aloo gobi starts. So if it looks very similar to the last video, that's because it starts very similarly, and then where it deviates is this has more liquid and it's more of a stew type dish versus a more solid dish. So that's how it's going to start, but it's very similar to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our heat on, get our pan on, let that start to heat up, and then as that's getting hot, we're going to use the same oil that I used last time, which is sesame oil, but feel free to use whatever cooking oil you prefer. I was thinking about using coconut oil, but decided to just go with sesame oil again. But feel free to use whatever cooking oil you feel most comfortable with. Let's get a little bit of this in the pan. And then let's let that oil get hot. And then we can continue. Let me just grab a spoon real quick. Now that you can see that the oil is getting hot, I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to add a pinch of mustard seeds, a pinch of fennel seeds, some ginger, and half a serrano pepper. Like I said, this is optional if you don't want it as spicy. I'm going to fry that up a little bit. And one of the ways you can tell when it's ready to start adding like the tomatoes and other things when it's frying up right is when the mustard seeds, when it gets hot enough and they start to pop. That's when you know you can start to add the tomatoes and stuff. That's when you know that they're fried up. So we will add some tomatoes here. Add just a little bit of salt. This is just an old, some other container, and so I just reused it. So add some salt. Then we just want to do that to like draw a little bit of that liquid once again out of those tomatoes, and then. And as we're doing that, let's let that fry up just a touch. So while we're doing that, so the garbanzo beans I used, what you can do is either soak them overnight, or you can just boil them for about 3 hours or so. What I do is put them in a pressure cooker, and that way they're ready to go in like an hour. So I use a pressure cooker to cook the garbanzo beans. Or you can use canned garbanzo beans as well. I like using fresh garbanzo beans, and I know a lot of places say to soak them overnight, but this way, if you use a pressure cooker, you don't even have to worry about that. You can just let them get pretty soft very quickly. Half an hour is what I've just been told. So it's half an hour in the pressure cooker. So just confirming that. My mom just came in and told me that it's half an hour, so just wanted to make sure you guys have those numbers right. So now that this is good and starting to fry, the tomatoes are starting to cook. We're getting some good color on the tomatoes. I'm gonna add the garbanzo beans. I'm gonna leave the liquid in there. So this is one of those dishes where you want to leave the liquids in there. So leave all the liquids in there. Get all the garbanzo beans in there. So we're gonna do that. And if it's dry, if you drained off some of the liquid, you can add water. But using the garbanzo beans liquid kind of keeps some of those, has more flavor in that water because the beans have been cooking in them. So I would, if you used a pressure cooker, you soaked your water, keep that water and just use that back in here. So we're gonna let that just come up to a boil. And then once that comes up to a boil, I'm gonna add so it's still on high heat. And so since the garbanzo beans have already been pre-made in the pressure cooker, all we have to do is let that come up to a boil, just really quickly, and then we drop it to like a simmer, and then we add the garam masala. And so the things that are different is this is more of a stew. And the other thing that's different is amchur. This is a game changer in your Channa Masala, so make sure to put this in. It's essentially dried mango skins and dried mango skins powdered up. So it gives that kind of like tangy tartness to it. If you don't have amchur, you can use lemon juice, but amchur is the preferred souring method for this. If you want to use lemon juice, go right ahead, but I prefer to use amchur, so it's about a teaspoon, maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons of garam masala, 1 or 2 teaspoons of amchur. Actually, it's about 2 teaspoons of amchur. I have quite a bit of amchur here. So you can use lemon juice. It doesn't work quite as well as amchur, but if you don't have it lying around and you don't have an Indian grocery store near you, you can use lemon juice. Amchur, I don't know how easy it is to find outside of Indian grocery stores. And here in Sunnyvale, California, there's a lot of Indian grocery stores. So we can find amchur very easily. But depending where you are and you're watching this, if you can't, lemon juice works fine to add that little bit of that sour, like that tart tanginess to it. Add the garam masala, add your amchur, give it just a quick stir through. You don't want to, you're not trying to be like really aggressive with how you stir this in. Just kind of like stir it in nice and light, and then let's go ahead and let's lower the temperature just a little bit, and we're gonna let this simmer for a little bit of time here, and then I'm gonna put a lid on that for that, and then we will come back and we'll finish this dish just like the previous one. I'm gonna finish this with some cilantro. I know a lot of people may not like cilantro, so if you don't like cilantro, don't worry about using it. We can just you can omit that if you want. So let's let that simmer down about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. So I'll check on it in about 10 or 15 minutes and see how it is. And then we can finish our dish, and that'll be Channa Masala. Okay, now it's been about 15 minutes. So I'm just gonna stir this real quick, and then we're going to drop the heat. Simply because like cilantro breaks down very easily in heat, and I finish with cilantro, like most of my dishes. And like I said, I know there's a lot of people that don't like cilantro, so if you don't like it, just feel free to omit it. So I'm gonna throw some cilantro in here as well, and then just gonna stir that in. I tend to use a lot of cilantro, as you can see, but you don't have to. And then, like I said, I've taken this to potlucks a few times as well, maybe not as much as aloo gobi. And in those cases, I don't always put cilantro because I don't always know who likes cilantro and who doesn't. So there we go. That's Channa Masala. If it's too thin and too watery, because we use the water and you want it to be a little bit thicker, you can take a little bit of it out, blend it in a blender, and then put it back in, and then stir it in, and then that'll thicken it up. So try that. Try other variations. I've made this with potatoes in it as well before, and I didn't do that this time. So you could try it with potatoes. I've tried it with cauliflower, making essentially gobi Channa Masala. That worked out well. You can try whatever variation you want to try, and let me know how that works out. And good eating. Thanks.